All right, good morning, everyone. It's now 10 o'clock, so we can go ahead and begin our Tuesday, July 12th, 2022 meeting of the City of Denison Planning and Zoning Commission. Go ahead and call this meeting to order and verify that we do have a quorum present so we can continue. We'll now enter the public comment section. So you may speak if you have presented a request to speak card. During this portion, you can speak generally on anything. If you want to speak on a particular matter, you can do it now, or you can do it as we present that item on the agenda. So that would be up to you. At this point, would there anybody like to speak on anything? All right, we'll close that section of the public comments and move on to the consent agenda. I did have one thing I noticed on the minutes for June 20, let's see, which one is this? Is it the 12th? For the June 14th. So it's on page 11 of our packet. It says in the middle of the page there on the first, I guess, new paragraph there, it says Vice Chair Redwine mentioned there were 3 other comments. I think that would have been me. So it should be. I don't think Spence was going through the comment cards. So if we can make that correction, other than that, are there any other comments on any of the items on the consent agenda? Seeing none, I'll entertain a motion on the consent agenda.
I make a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented.
I'll second.
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those in favor? All those opposed? Same sign. Consent agenda is approved. All right. Next, we'll move into the public hearing section. And again, on any of these items, if you wish to speak when you approach, please make sure you speak loudly and speak into the microphone. And as well, when you approach, please state your name and address for the record for us, please. All right. So we will move into item 4A.
Thank you, sir. Item 4A, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and make a recommendation on a request to abandon a portion of Ford Street located east of Fannin Avenue and adjacent to lots 14 through 11 and parts of lots 3 and 12, block 9 of the Fairmount Edition, case number 2022-069 ROW. This is an aerial of the property off of Ford Street and Fannin Avenue. The particular location of the right-of-way is that strip on the northern portion. This street was dedicated to the city in 1889 as part of the Fairmount Edition, but it was never built. And the applicant that is requesting this right-of-way abandonment owns all the property to the south. Here's a survey of said right-of-way. It's about 0.34 acres. The property is zoned SF5, single-family residential. The applicant went through the rezoning process, I think the end of last year, beginning of this year. Their intention is to build single-family homes on this property, and this right-of-way would be included in their property for those lots. Staff is recommending approval of the request, and I'm present for any questions, and so is the applicant.
All right. Any questions of staff at this point? Would the applicant like to address?
Morning. Pretty much just,
Hold on.
do I?
Name and address for the record.
Oh, yeah. Josh Hawley, 3348 West Stafford Drive, Denison, Texas, 75020. Plan is to get this abandoned with some of the easements. worked out to where this would be advantageous to create an additional lot with the, we don't envision Ford ever going through. And I am going to be, in the future, deeding over the back portion to the what do you call it, the metal building guy, to the property owner to the east. So that'll fix that. So.
So you own, looking at the map here, you own the property, the vacant land or the part with the buildings?
The vacant land
Vacant land.
fronting Fannin.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? No, sir. Thank you, sir. Would anyone else like to speak on this?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Good morning. My name's Curtis Harden. My mailing address is 16970 Dallas Parkway, Suite 500, Dallas 75248. I own, or we own, the property that's immediately north of this. When you saw the picture up there with the strip running down the front of it that you're wanting to abandon, that's Ford Street in front of 7 residential lots on the north side of Ford. If you close that, then the 6 interior lots there have no street frontage. And so basically, you created 6 landlocked residential lots there that basically will reduce the value, probably require us to go back in and replant that whole thing so that so we have some access, because, and it basically decreases the value of those lots, especially, well, the interior lots, dramatic. This is lots 10 through 16, Block 12, Fairmount Edition. And so if you close those lots, basically you close any road access to those lots, the interior of the lots. There's only one lot that fronts Fannin Street. All these lots run south to north. And so the entrance from the street would be the street that they're talking about closing, and basically creates a landlock.
So your concern is that it's creating landlocked lots to the north of you?
Our lots are north of, are on the north side of Ford Street. It's the,
Okay, sorry, well, I guess, or his, then I guess on the south side. I looked
yeah,
at the aerial, so.
he's on the south side, yes, sir.
Say again,
Right.
please, where you're located.
Okay, well, you see that yellow strip with the long extended
panhandle.
line that goes out this way? That property immediately to the north there is ours.
Yeah, so that's north, the aerials switch, so that's really north.
It's easier to look on here, he's block 12, 10 through 16, and he's saying only 10 would have street access to Fannin, 11 through 16 would not,
Yeah, 11 through 16 don't have any access except via Ford Street.
except via 4th Street.
Yes.
Oh, you're saying your lots would be landlocked?
The lots, all the interior lots, there's one lot that goes south to north against Fannin. The other 6 lots go to the east, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and all 6 of those will be landlocked if Ford Street is closed.
So, but is Ford Street actually, so you're saying you use Ford Street now, even
Well,
though it's not?
Ford Street's not built, but in the future, to actually use those as residential lots, which is how they're zoned, you're going to have street access, and the right-of-way is there to be used as this area develops, and I'm hoping that Mr. Jolly has great success in it, but obviously it didn't. They didn't extend Ford Street because the economics and the area wouldn't support the residential at the time that it was done back in the 1890s, and so
But again, I guess, so your concern is that your lots down there to the north, they're part of those would be landlocked?
yeah, 6 of the 7 lots we own just north of that street they're talking about closing, Ford Street. All 6 of the 7 interior lots will be landlocked.
I'm a little confused. I see 4th Street, what is to the left, or what we'd say to the, because it's upside down, right?
Yeah, it's upside down.
Yeah,
But
Ford,
4th Street doesn't go along the proposed acreage.
no, ma'am, but the right-of-way does. Basically, the
The right-of-way
right-of-way
does.
extends along that narrow strip there that goes from Fannin Street all the way to where it drops off there.
Okay.
So similar question, that Ford Street that was originally mapped out to be there,
Yes.
there's nothing there at all now, is that correct?
The street has never been built, yes, ma'am. The street's never been built, but it is the only access to the interior lots, is the right-of-way that's there. And as I understand, the proposal was to basically make the right-of-way disappear, which effectively landlocks those interior 6 lots.
Well, I mean, if something was gonna have to be built on there, that road would have to be done anyway, and I don't see that there's any plans for the city, obviously. I mean, it's been 100-something years to put in that extension of Ford Street.
Yes, sir.
I mean, so you would, if you were gonna build houses there right now, you would still have to find some other access. You couldn't access, necessarily by that part of Ford Street.
We would certainly have to develop the area to utilize those residential lots that were platted so long ago. Yes, sir. As I said, the area there never supported residential lots. There was a single house there. I think you can probably see where it is. I think that's the red roof-looking thing that's there, but the house is long gone. It was a single residence that some people owned a long time ago. But the 7 lots are only valuable for building houses on, residential lots, if they have street access. And the right-of-way is already in place for the street access. I'm just asking that you don't basically make the right-of-way disappear so that the street access isn't available when, as Denison is growing, and I'm sure y'all know it, and Mr. Jolly knows it too, he's building homes. And we need those residential lots. We need to be able to use them as residential lots and not have to do something else to create access to them. When there's already access there, we'll need to build the street.
But I guess on these are not residential lots that you have right now, correct?
They're not being used as residential lots, but they're zoned as residential lots, yes.
Gotcha. All right. Any other questions of the speaker? All right. I saw somebody else want to comment?
So he is, and I don't know if I'll have this image, but his parcel is to the north.
So when you're asking for the abandonment, are you actually asking for half of the road space?
He would get the other half. The thing that he is mentioning is he needs the road potentially for future, but in my mind, it's not going to ever be economically feasible because my property, that would be the other half of that, facing that road, will be platted towards Fannin. And then behind my property is the industrial park. And then to the east of the industrial park is more industrial, which is all fronting Coffin. And so to build that road, it would all be one-sided, single loaded towards his property to the north. And you'd have to take it all the way to Spur 503, which would be on the developer to build that whole road from Spur 503 essentially to Fannin. If a cul-de-sac was to be put in, this road right-of-way does not give the proper, it's not big enough to be able to do a cul-de-sac. So the road would have to go all the way to Spur 503, which would be on the developer, and I think for 6 lots or so, wouldn't be economically feasible when you could replat his property facing Fannin and probably get 3 lots. You know, so 3 additional lots, him having to build that long of a road will never make sense. And then the gentleman, I have the consent from the industrial park owner. He also owns the large property to the north, which is to the east and north of his property.
Okay.
He owns all that. He consented to the road abandonment. He said he would access. So he doesn't need Ford either. He's not that. You know, his plan would be to access from his industrial park or from Fannin as well. And so it just won't ever be economically feasible with road construction costs to build the road to get, instead of 3 lots that he could get now by replatting compared to 6 lots, whenever I'm going to be facing Fannin with mine, and then behind me is no additional lots to the south on that road.
If I may, again, the east side of our property is a bluff that runs down about 50 feet. Okay, so there's nobody going to access the property to the north of us going down Ford Street. I mean, Ford Street has no boundary on the property that's consenting to the north. And to turn 7 lots into 3 lots and have to replat it because if he gets his replatting approved, he does away with the his side of the road. If the city were to decide to build that street through, then you know, his side of the right-of-way would have to be utilized as well. And obviously, he's wanting to replat it so that all his face Fannin, and that benefits him because of the way it's laid out. It's not all the way across like ours. His is running on Fannin, so I understand that why he wants to have all the lots face Fannin, because his is configured that way. Ours is configured, the rectangle is not up and down, it's sideways, and so the 7 lots go across it. And basically to configure that into 3 lots, it would be 3 real skinny, real deep lots if we were able to utilize them at all.
I understand that, but I guess my question is it doesn't sound like any of the other property owners are interested in utilizing it, and so I don't see there's a way that Ford Street would be extended through there, you know, under those circumstances, just for, you know, to be able to build 3 additional lots on a property.
If
That doesn't, I don't see a way that the city would go through. Obviously, there's not any plans at this point. That's why the city would be selling this property. Obviously, there's no plans for the extension of Ford Street. And so
Yes, sir.
I don't think it's not feasible for you to build it for 6 lots. So, and obviously, there's not any plans at this point to do that. And if the other property owners, don't have intention of using it, then it sounds like it would just sit here.
Well, and the other property owner is the applicant. Yes, and I understand that. He does intend to use it. He intends to take that property and put it into his replatted subdivision over there and make it I guess, more feasible for him. But on our side
I'm saying
of
the
it,
property owner that surrounds you on the other side of it as well, is if they're not intending to use it, then, you know,
yes, sir. As I
then
said,
that's the difference, because if they were, then yes, but if they're not going to be using it, then, you know, that street is not going to be used, and then if the one to the south, the industrial part isn't, then that kind of gives you the answer there, that there's no other users that are gonna be pushing to need to do Ford Street.
right.
So I don't see that road ever getting built.
Well, and when I address the landowner to the north that owns the strip to the north of us and down that side, if you see that dark line going up and down there, that's a bluff. There's a 50-foot drop right there. Nobody can get up and down that side of it. Sure, you can go down to the bottom, but you know, we're not talking about building a road that goes down there and then basically goes like this down to the bottom of that bluff and goes on. We're talking about a block-long street. And as I said, if you look at maybe you can tell, there's a red line up there in that. That's our northern boundary.
Right.
You see how narrow that is. There's no way to get 3 decent lots out of that if you cut it from west to east. I mean, they would be, you know, skinny and, you know, 100 feet, 200 feet deep. And so
I
it's
understand
not
that.
feasible.
But, so you just kind of made the point there, well, they're not going to extend that road, there's a bluff there. So literally, they would just be building it just for your property there. The city's not going to do that just for those 6 lots. And I don't think it's gonna make feasible to you to have a road built to, you know, to do it. So that's kind of where we are.
Well, and if the applicant reconfigured his proposed development so that basically he used the lots coming this way and then the lots that are at the north end of his property running to to Ford Street, then we could utilize that and he'd have lots there and we'd have lots there.
I have a question.
Yes.
The peninsula arm that goes off is in fact what we're talking about. Are we extending that peninsula all the way over to Fannin? In other words, the part of the peninsula that's hooked on to 149435 is also part that you're asking to be abandoned. You haven't owned that yet.
Yeah, I believe that's what he's asking. Look in the,
Correct? Yes. So in fact, you're looking at that, not just the part that sticks off, but in fact, all the way over to Fannin on that plan.
yeah, if it ran straight.
That's where the road is, or where the might have been a road is.
If I may.
Yes, sir.
Go ahead.
My name's Ronnie Bates, I'm Public Works Director for the city. At first, I did not approve of this because I didn't have enough information at the time when the request first came through. And I wish we had a laser pointer. We have one, but it doesn't show up on the screen. It'd be easier to point this out. But the reason I first denied it was because you see where those buildings are on the right there? If he was to make any adjustments to that, he would have to meet the new fire code and would have to have 2 ways in and out, all right? So he would come off of Coffin, and have to make it where he come up to the new extended Ford and come around. The city does not have any plans to extend Ford out, but as these developments, as people come in and make developments, they are required to build out to the center line of the street to make the road improvements. So at some point in time, when that property does get developed, the road would go through by developers participating in certain parts of it. When I talked to the applicant, and he said that there was no plans for the folks that had the storage buildings there to go through or do any improvements, then that's when I changed it to agreeing with him. But I did not realize that there was another property corner that was owned. I was under the impression that everything north was one property owner. I did not know this gentleman had that property on the corner there. I would recommend we probably table this, let us go back and redo some more investigation and find out a better option for this. Just my opinion.
Thank you.
Just so the commission understands that if we table this to the next planning and zoning meeting, whatever the recommendation that this body decides to move forward with, that does still go to the August 1st council meeting. There's only one council meeting in July, and that was last night. So if we table this to the next meeting that we have at the end of July, we can still move the applicant forward, whatever that may be, to the council meeting that they're already anticipating going to.
Thank you. But I guess before we get to that, anybody else want to speak on this? All right, then I'll go ahead. I'll close the public hearing portion of this agenda item. Any further questions or comments among the commission? Seeing none, then I would entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we table item 4A pending further investigation.
Second.
So I have a motion to table and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Okay, so it will be tabled to the July 26th meeting. Okay. And that would still be online for the August council meeting, correct? All right.
That'd be August 1st.
Okay. All right. First, okay. All right. Then we will move to item 4B.
Item 4B, receive a report, hold a discussion, conduct a public hearing, and make a recommendation on a request to rezone 35.1 plus or minus acres, generally located at the southwest corner of Texoma Parkway in Texas, 503 Spur E, from agriculture, commercial, and single-family 7.5 zoning districts to single-family 5 zoning district, and to zone 60 plus or minus acres of land to be annexed into the city limits to single-family 5. Case number 2022-070Z. This is an aerial of that subject property. And this is the zoning aerial. As you can see, there's currently, for the property that is within the city limits, you have 3 zoning districts: commercial, single-family 7.5, and agriculture. And this is a survey of said property. And this is a concept plan. The applicant is requesting the initial zoning for the parts that are not annexed into the city for single-family 5, and then rezoning the other portions to single-family 5 in order to develop a residential subdivision. If you look, most of the northern property is in the 100-year floodplain, and the applicant has requested the single-family 5 zoning district in order to, in order to accommodate the land that is left over. The annexation, as well as this zoning case, will go before council on August 1st. Applicant has to come before this body first in order to get the initial zoning for that property that's not annexed. And as I stated, they are requesting a single-family 5 residential zoning district for the entire property. Staff does recommend approval of this request. I'm present for any questions, and I believe the applicant is as well.
Any questions of staff? All right. Would the applicant like to address?
Good morning, Commissioners, staff, members of the public. My name is Blake Vaughn, Vita Nova Construction. My address is 8109 Belmont Court, North Richland Hills 76182. And happy to answer any questions anyone might have. Did want to point out one thing. The majority of the acreage is in floodway, not necessarily the 100-year floodplain. And so we would not be building on it ever.
I have one question for you. I noticed some of the lots are starred.
Those are the lots that are specifically in the floodplain currently that we would have to, our engineers would be working with FEMA to get the proper approvals for that. So they're just kind of indicators to us that they may or may not happen.
Okay.
How many lots total is that?
On this map.
The final number's still in flux, but I would say it's somewhere between 130 to 180. And you can kind of see there's a Katy Trail runs along the west side there. We are hoping to put our own trail system in along Iron Ore Creek to take advantage of some of that floodway. And then, I don't know, maybe some other ideas that we can come up with in the future, park type stuff. One more thing to point out too, I thought was interesting. The piece of land is actually surrounded by the city of Denison, but it is not in the city of Denison. So I just thought that was kind of interesting. You have the large Gateway Village development to the west, next to the hospital, and doing a lot of great, beautiful things there already.
And that's right across from the Denison Service Center, am I correct?
Yes, yeah, I think the service center would be that part on the right. Okay. Any other questions of the applicant at this point?
No, not at this time.
Okay, we may bring you back up if we have any. Okay. Would anyone else like to speak on this item?
My name is Teresa Wilson. I have packets for you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you.
My name is Teresa Washington Wilson, and I'm opposing this. And the reason I'm opposing this, and I have exhibits for you, is number one, the existing homes in the area off of Teresa Drive are homes with acreage to avoid further flooding. Most of the residents there, they work. They've got 5 to 8 acres, several minority families. The one adjacent to the majority of the homes on Teresa Drive, it cannot be here. It's an old farm road. It's not up to code. It's a small asphalt road. I feel any homes that go in there need to be upgraded. They're trying to take it down from a 7.5 to a 5 and cram in all these houses, and that area floods. The proposed exit to Texoma Parkway is adjacent to my drive and in the floodplain. I presume they would have to bridge to come out onto the Parkway, but it's very dangerous. I have to pull over onto the shoulder off of the spur or coming from downtown to even get into my drive because the traffic is increasingly growing. People use the Parkway a lot more than they did when I bought my property in 2007. And we're conservationists. We have a lot of visiting live birds and eagles and red herons coming over from Hagerman. We have 150-year-old trees at the back of our property, and we have a vineyard, and we've just gotten our ag exemption for bees, and our bees are at the back of our property. He's proposing 13 houses butt up to my backyard, and there's a picture in Exhibit 7 of 6 of the proximity to the house to the houses. And
it will it will enhance the flooding. Dr. Brown lived in my property 50 years, and we have a retention pond. It's up in the front of this drawing, and I have exhibits. He's had to navigate the property, even as high up as we are, into the retention pond to keep from flooding, and even had flooding from the opposite side where Bat's business is. And I spoke to his son yesterday at length about that. I also must just say, and I appreciate Mr. Vaughn's service. He's been in the Navy 3 times. But his resume doesn't show any expertise at all in this industry, which I would hope council and you all would be interested in looking into, because he didn't get out of the military till 2019, and he formulated this business a year ago. So we have very many concerns about that. We love Denison. We expense ourselves a lot to keep the Parkway clean and tidy, because you all call it the gateway to Denison, and TxDOT doesn't take care of it. And our extra entrance is even closed off because TxDOT's requirements for an easement are huge, and it wasn't really feasible for us to reopen that. So Mr. Bourne used that property agriculturally for cattle grazing. He knew, and it wasn't gonna, he wouldn't sell to others of us little bits, because he knew he had to keep that one little bit together, because the whole rest of it was useless. And Halsey and Halsey bought it, and they're a development group. They recognized it and they sold it. And these gentlemen are from out of town. And we don't want to see a big mess start back there and them not even be able to finish it. But we totally oppose all that they're offering in so many housing. We want Denison to stay a beautiful city, and I think that could be a nightmare. So, thank you.
Thank you. Any questions of Ms. Wilson? Mr. Nicholson?
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
My name is Thomas Nicholson, 4011 South State Highway 91, Denison, Texas, 75020. I'm Teresa's husband, and we live at Breezy Hill. And I maintain Breezy Hill personally. I mow, weed eat, take care of the vineyard, everything. There's not a flat spot on that property. They're proposing those 13 houses right behind the barn and behind where we keep our bees. And it's hard to see in this picture, but from the center portion behind the barn to the northwest corner boundary line is probably a 15 to 20 foot drop. On the other side, the southwest corner by Bats is about the same. That floods. Everything down on the north side floods. We've been through torrential rains. Those years where the water went over the dam, all that down there where they're proposing their road for the entrance was flooded. Cows trying to drown. It was a mess. So hopefully this is just a feasibility study that they have, because I've got concerns about how they would level any of that terrain for that 760-foot easement without causing flooding for us or even for them if they stair-stepped. These are our concerns. I protest, and I've just got to give it a thumbs down.
Because of the fact that the bus barn's across from us and they're a good neighbor. But I don't know if you remember, but several years ago, a lot of the buses got damaged because of flooding. Right now it's dry and hot and it looks great, but we all live here and we know what the water can do. And it's a huge concern.
I do think the flooding is a concern. I know one of your points was about having neighbors right on the back. I mean, I understand that you don't want that, but it's also something that, somebody owns land, that's just, you've enjoyed the benefits of it, but we can't say, oh no, just because it's right against your barn or something like that. I don't think that's necessarily a reason that we can do something. I just wanted to point that out. I understand your other some of your other points there, but as far as, the fact of not wanting to have a bunch of houses behind you, obviously is personal to you, but it's not necessarily a reason that we would, deny something just because it creates neighbors. Obviously, the density part of it is a question, and the drainage part of it, I think, is a question as well. Is there anybody else that would like to speak on this item?
Good afternoon, Commissioners. My name is Jacob Good. I am with Strand Engineers, and I represent the owner. Address is 10003 Technology Parkway, or Technology Boulevard in Dallas. Obviously, we would work with city staff and all governing municipalities to ensure that any floodplain reclamation that is proposed according to this concept plan.
Can you pull the microphone up a little higher?
I'm sorry. That any of those, so if any of the lots that are shown in the floodplain or any of the reclamation that's proposed, any increase in drainage runoff, that would all have to go through engineering review with city staff. This is solely a concept plan. The applicant understands that they may not be able to achieve all the lots that are shown here. But we understand that we would have to work with city staff, with FEMA, if floodplain reclamation is proposed, and go through all the necessary steps to achieve this layout and ensure public safety.
Has there been any type of a drainage study, drainage plan done to this point?
Not yet.
Any other questions or comments of the speaker?
I'm not sure who to address this to, but I'm just wondering if the applicant has considered a possibility, because there are 7.5 homes in that area, if they've considered having a mix of the single-family 5 and 7.5. Is that a consideration?
I'll let Blake speak to that.
Great question. I would like to, I guess, say that we're looking for the minimum. Would it be the minimum zoning? And so the different sizes of the lots would obviously be different, kind of based on the terrain. So you've got a lot of fall, as was kind of mentioned. So some of the lots will be bigger, some of the lots will be smaller, but we want to kind of zone it as giving us what we can work with, if that makes sense. Is that clear? I'm not really good at explaining, but we've got our topography reports back. It'll be a complex project, but obviously something that we will do all the due diligence and get the necessary approvals to do.
Along those same thoughts, it seems like for the number of houses there, there are not a lot of access points for the planned park. Is there any way you could incorporate some better access?
Absolutely. It's a very, very preliminary layout that we kind of threw together to get an idea. I mean, okay, a lot of things could be done. I actually think there'll be a lot more park area just because of the floodway. We had talked about doing, maybe something with the city. I don't know. I don't want to make promises or anything like that, but there's definitely more areas that we can build out for park area, more trail access, that sort of thing.
I like the houses that you've shown us pictures, but that's a lot of houses planned.
Yes, ma'am.
Is there more than one developer that's going to be involved with this?
We're still working through kind of the details of what that would look like. I love what they're dodoing at Gateway Village, Highland Homes. I think there's a wide variety of homes that we could do. I primarily want to target a high quality product. I think I think this area is a very beautiful area, obviously. And I think a lot of people would love to live in this area of Denison. And so I just want to make sure this is, and kind of what was pointed out, I mean, this is my first development, okay? I actually got out of the Navy in 2015, excuse me. I've been in the reserve since, but inactive. And I've been an entrepreneur since 2016. I've owned several businesses. I currently own several businesses. And I just wanted to, this is my first project, so I want to feel really good about it. So just kind of letting you know, I don't want it to look bad. I don't want it to be, just packed full of houses that don't look good, that ruin the idea of what this could be. That's not what I'm going for. I don't know how to express that, but just wanted to say that.
It sounds like you'd be pretty flexible to work with the concerns of the neighbors.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
This is a doozy to have be your first project. That area, everyone up here is pro-business. Obviously, we're trying to keep Denison going. If I was your business partner, which I'm not, I would be scared to death for the costs.
Yes, sir.
That's why you're trying to go down from 7.5 to 5, because, the more parks you put in, the less money you're going to make out of it.
Sure.
I'm worried about this area. Driving around this area my whole life, it's just known to be the flood area. And I'm not armed, we're not armed with a feasibility study
Right.
of that. And I understand that this area is floodway versus floodplain, and I appreciate that. It's making me nervous just looking at it.
Understood.
Well, and I appreciate that you've already marked those
Right.
plots
Right.
that could be, a problem.
And we are only looking at zoning and annexation in this meeting, and so I definitely would like to dive in deeper to those particular issues, those concerns that everyone has as we get to those stages of the project. We do have preliminary cost estimates already in place. I have a general idea of the amount of money it's going to take to actually develop this. And anyway, so we're trying to put all those details together and get it as solid as possible.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay.
If you don't mind, because TechStop comes into play with this. And that ingress and egress, if he's got 129 homes thereabouts, you figure there's 2 cars, possibly kids' cars. So you've got 500 plus minus vehicles pulling onto the Parkway, in and out. It'll have to be wide, double wide. Right now, there's just a little goat trail there because they didn't use it. And we are in close proximity to the spur. So I do feel that there's an imminent danger opportunity there. And of course, TxDOT would probably have to be involved to do a traffic study or whatever they do. And I just wanted to bring that up too, because that's a really big concern as well. Thank you.
If I can add to Ms. Wilson's point, the applicant will have to most likely do a traffic impact analysis study for not only Texoma Parkway, but Teresa Drive. And a lot of, as his engineer mentioned, it's possible that several of these lots will go away based off of the civil engineering plans and along with platting. So I just wanted to point that out, that you are correct. He will most likely have to do a TIA.
And Diane, it would be required to have the 2 access points, correct?
Yes, he'll have to have 2 access points, and this is a concept plan. I don't want to, I don't want to tear it apart or give it good praise or anything like that, but there's things to consider, such as length of drives, cul-de-sacs, things like that. So, and all of that would be vetted out through the plating process.
Sure, yep. If you'll state your name and address for the record.
Bobby Treviso, and I live at 4466 Teresa Drive. I was just going to say, like the developer mentioned, that it is beautiful, and it's beautiful for a reason, that it's been left, because of the floodway or the floodplain, that it's not smart to build out there because of the amount of water. We've lived out there almost 3 years. And it's dry right now, like she's mentioned, but whenever it does rain, even a couple inches, it's like a river down our driveway that's been washed out multiple times, just on Teresa, on our rock driveway. The back, where we have cows back there, we have it fenced off, but right behind there, before you get to Texoma, Parkway, there's huge gullies, and it's always washed out. So I don't understand, because I think that's where the development's gonna go, right behind my house, kind of. And I understand your point. 4466. I can't really, where's Teresa Drive on there? Where's the blue mark?
On the left.
It's coming down diagonal from,
Can you show me, where it is? Okay. If you don't mind.
Yeah, go ahead.
Manny's property is right on this left side.
Right.
That's his 5 acres, and so I don't know how you, if you're.
Okay.
Whose property?
Manny.
That's my husband. He just can't be here.
Well, that's your property.
Yeah, okay, I just can't see it from here, so.
You were explaining the gullies, that was.
Yeah, and it's really, really deep gullies, and like she was saying, there's wildlife out there, we have our cows out there, but, I understand that we need people to come into Denison and move into Denison, but, it's left serene like that for a reason, because it's not safe. You guys have looked at it and was like, yeah, I don't know about this, but, and I'm not an engineer, it floods all the time.
Right.
And it's, so, I was just gonna put my opposition out there, really, so. It just worries me, because how are they gonna, are we gonna flood? We're a little higher up, but, we still have to deal with all the flood from all the water coming up front, going down to that stream.
Right.
And there's no place for it to go. That's why it's built there. That's why it's there naturally, basically. So. Anyway, that's it.
all right. Anyone else like to speak at this point? I will note that we did receive 2, sorry, let me make sure I got this right. We received 3, I guess, comments, or these be mail, or the 3 other responses to this. One from Robert Hempkins, supporting the request. Says our property address adjacent or close by is approximately 14 acres. It's per 503 Park Avenue, Teresa. That's all it says. Also from George Chamberlain. Says I support the request with reservations. 50% of this land is in floodplain. Will the city end up with a bunch of residential streets in said floodplain? I've seen this area flooded twice in the last 15 years. The current online city maps do not show this area to be in the city limits. And then one from Joseph William Roberts, opposing the request. I oppose this request for rezoning. I'm against tax height and city restrictions. this proposed rezoning would result in crime increase, lots of personal space, and would infringe my rights as a name owner to live as I choose and build or expand my property as well, impede my current lifestyle. Those are other comments that were received. All right. Anyone else like to further speak on this item? All right, then I would close the public hearing portion. Diane, I did have a question, I guess, as far as on like the comp plan and so forth, how does this fit in with?
If I remember correctly, the frontage on Texoma Parkway is mixed commercial, and everything behind it is residential.
Does it get down into the 7.5 verse 5?
No, our comp plan is strictly residential, commercial.
All right.
So may I ask a question? If they're trying to drop it agricultural, that means that space can't be used for agriculture at all anymore? Is that true?
That particular portion of the acreage, yes, if we change the zoning, then to that, then they would no longer be ag. But you go ahead.
I just want to point out, the agricultural zoning is on the north side along 503. It's unusable territory, so we wouldn't build anything there if that's the concern.
Right.
And then the commercial, same thing, it's on the east side with Texoma. I can't build in the floodway, so it doesn't mean anything. We're just trying to make it easy by just calling it the same zoning for the whole thing, just to make it easy, I guess.
I guess I have one comment. I guess you know, I have a concern with obviously with the flooding issue, with it being a more dense development. You know, that you know, could create more issues of with the flooding, being that it's going to be more dense, more concrete, less you know, less avenues for runoff. You know, and rezoning this kind of pending, you know, pending knowing what is going to be able to really be done out there, what kind of, you know, what kind of access there would be, and you know, I kind of have reservations about rezoning it. Kind of basically putting the cart before the horse, before we kind of really know some of the answers to some of these questions.
Right, and the only real question today is rezoning, but we all are prognosticating what's gonna happen over the next 4 or 5 years there. It's not a question of should 180 homes go there or 18 homes there, it's just a question of rezoning. And then that's where all the questions really start after that. That area worries me because of water, that's it. So many times throughout the years, the developments in Denison, somebody will come and be opposed to something just because they don't want traffic on their street. And, you know, that's not a good enough reason, but water is. And unfortunately, we're not armed with the proper information or tools to know, well, you can develop that area, but not that. We're just a P and Z council. And so, again, the only question today is rezoning.
I too have a problem with the density in the project.
Right.
That so many houses on a piece of property that's known to be problematic. And I think that's my biggest concern in the rezoning.
Teresa is a problem. Again, if we were doing this, the way Teresa is currently laid out, that's a huge issue, and so is the new entrance to the Parkway. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Off of Texoma Parkway?
Yeah.
I think the plan really has a lot of potential. There's a lot that's good about it. I think we just need to, like everybody said, get it started and then go from there on the adjustments. I think it's premature to go forward with rezoning at this time.
Let me just state something. The things that you're asking for, while they're valid, and I understand that, that does come after a zoning. And for the portions of this property that are already in the city limits, they can provide those things to you now, but it kind of negates the development of, or exactly what he's trying to get to.
Exactly.
And also with this being an annexation case, there is an initial zoning that is required, and the applicant has requested the SF5. If that request was not made, then it would default to ag. But you're still, it's unfortunate that this is the way that it has to go, but, and I'm not trying to change anybody's minds or anything, but the things that you're asking for come after a zoning.
No, exactly, that's what I'm saying. Well,
Okay.
this is just a zoning
Okay.
situation, so if we voted to change the zoning, we're not condoning this
Right.
project.
I mean, it's all very good points. I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure that everybody
Right.
understood.
May I just ask, I know you're close, but if it's already zoned 7.5 housing, why, I mean, that's an opportunity. It's not that much bigger, but it's already zoned that. So I mean.
At this point in time, we cannot take further comments. Once the public hearing has been closed, it has been closed.
Does anyone else have any further questions of staff or comments? No?
So if we were to propose an amendment to change the motion from what was suggested, can we do that?
Yes, you can recommend,
Well, I'd like to move to recommend that we approve the request to rezone the portion of the property to a mix of 7.5 and single-family 5 with consideration for the requests that have been made.
Can you do?
I don't know if we can do that. Because we're going to, this will have to go to an ordinance, and those boundaries will have to be outlined. What would be SF5 and what would be single-family 7.5.
Would it be better to just deny the request and go from there?
That's up to the commission to decide. You can table, deny, or recommend with conditions.
Which would be better, table?
It's up to you. I don't know that
You're not gonna do it.
that it's
What do you?
really, I don't know that necessarily a mix really solves your, I think it's whether you're comfortable with 5 or you want 7.5. The mix part of it,
That makes it confusing.
Yeah.
to have, parts of it, because we're not talking about a huge parcel there where you may have that in a large, really large development.
So if, okay, so.
Yeah, this is the part where it's not fun to be on planning Because we're the kill the messenger per the comprehensive plan and per the state of Texas laws.
Well, we've had some that have been a mix, so
Yeah,
what I'm
Those
thinking
came-
at this
those
point
came through
is
as,
because
planned
they've already
developments.
said there are quite a few that may not work anyway, that if we were to recommend zoning 7.5, then the developer could come back later and say, I want to do specific things, like the single-family 5 in certain areas.
No, if you recommend SF seven point
That's gotta be
five, that'll
one
go
of them.
before council as a recommendation. And if that is approved as a zoning district, then the developer will have to develop the land under those zoning standards.
Right. Exactly right.
Clearly, the issue is density.
I think that's gonna say, the issue is the density. Obviously, there's a lot of other things that would have to get worked out before this project could see the light of day, being TxDOT, all that stuff. That's not necessarily, you know,
That's not the issue.
that's gonna have to be done. I mean, the TxDOT part of it would have to be done whether they do 7.5 or SF5. I mean, that part of it would
Then I'll
have.
just make
I mean,
it real simple.
Some of that has to be done. It's
Yeah.
gonna come down to,
Okay.
do you know, to narrow the focus there more is, okay, do you like this, the SF5 designation? You know, like I said, the developer's gonna have, you know, doesn't matter what it is there, the developer's gonna have to do a lot of work there, figuring out the roads and access and building up the lots and all that stuff is going to have to happen regardless. You know, in my
Well,
opinion,
knowing
it comes
what
down
happens
to,
if you do 5, and then you have lots that need ordinance change in order to be used, it just seems like we're better off,
well, yeah, I
zoning
mean, 5
at
would be the minimum. You can
7.5.
make them bigger.
yeah.
It's just you can't
And
make
there's
them,
more
you can't
flexibility.
make them smaller.
So
You can't go,
I
that's
removed my other
the,
motion, I made, new motion. I moved to approve the request to be based on 7.5 for the entire property.
can we amend the proposal?
So you're just making a recommendation. This is what's gonna go before council.
Right.
Okay, so,
So she's making the recommendation of 7.5, a motion that it be presented as 7.5.
yes, so after this commission has heard from the applicant and the presentation, your recommendation going to council, if I understand correctly, is to rezone and to initially zone the property to single-family 7.5 rather than the requested SF5. Is that correct? Okay, then that's the motion that'll go forward as a recommendation.
Obviously, council can council only act
Council
on the
gets-
7.5?
Council gets the final approval based off of what is presented. They take into account staff's recommendation, your recommendation, and what the applicant and citizens have to say.
Could they go to change it to 5?
Well,
They,
We're
they,
the recommending body, they can.
We're just recommending,
yes, sir.
completely erase
They,
anything we say.
yes, sir.
Yeah.
They have final say.
Right, okay.
What is Fawn Hollow?
That's a street.
No, the neighborhood.
I honestly,
Is it on Meadow?
Is it single family 5 or 7.5?
I would be
What's under-
surprised if it's 5, but I don't know for sure, Spence.
5 is most of your lots around.
That's why I asked. I don't know what.
All right. So, did you complete your motion?
I thought I did.
Okay. Okay, so, just to summarize,
I
so
don't
you
think we
made
had
the
a
motion
second.
that it be presented as, to rezone as 7.5, correct?
Right.
And to initial zone.
Pardon me?
She'll need to make a motion to rezone and then to initially zone,
Yeah.
please.
And does the motion at some point need to address the annexation? So something
No,
I
ma'am.
needed to add from all of these things to 7.5. Yeah. So I recommend approval of the request to rezone a portion of this property currently within the city limits from agricultural, commercial, and single-family 7 to, it's redundant there, and the remainder of this single to 7.5.
Okay. So we have a motion. Do I have a second on that motion?
I'll second.
I have a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed? Any opposed? None? All right. That motion is approved. And like I said, that will go to the August 1st hearing. Like I said, we're a recommending body only on these matters, so council will have the final approval on that. Okay? All right. Next, we will move on to item 4C.
Thank you, sir. Item 4C, receive a report, hold a discussion, and take action on a preliminary plat for the HR Industrial Park, case number 2022-075. This is an aerial of the subject property. As you can see, it is already developed. It's currently zoned light industrial. This property was previously developed prior to being annexed into the city. In 2021, the property owners requested city services, and therefore that moved forward with their request for voluntary annexation and zoning. Now that the property's been developed, the applicant is wanting to preliminarily plat the property into 10 lots, and then they will move forward with civils as well as a final plat. The property has been developed in an industrial manner, and the lots do conform to the light industrial zoning district. Staff does recommend approval of the request. I'm present for any questions, and so is the applicant.
Any questions of staff? Would the applicant like to add anything?
Good morning. My name is David Vilbig. I'm at 517 West Woodard. I'm the engineer on the project. It's a very unique project being annexed after it had been developed. The owner was intending to lease these properties as single, just not individual lots like they are. The owner passed away. His daughter has inherited this, and she wants to get rid of it. And so we're going to redo some of the engineering, and I'll meet with staff on that and bring engineering plans and final plat.
So these would end up being platted into
Individual
each
lots.
building would be
Each
like a
building,
separate-
yes.
Gotcha.
Be happy to answer any other questions.
Any other questions for Mr. Bilby? All right. Would anyone else like to speak on this request? Seeing none, I will close the public hearing portion on this item. Any further discussion or further discussion among commission members or questions of staff?
Yes, sir.
All right. Then I will entertain a motion at this point.
I move to approve the proposed preliminary plat for the HR Industrial Park.
Second?
So I have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign? None. Motion is approved. All right. Next, we'll move on to item 4D.
Item 4D, receive a report, hold a discussion, hold a public hearing, and take action on a replat of lots 3RA, 4RA, 5RA, and Common Area A, Block B of the Saddle Creek Addition on 2.5 plus or minus acres and located on the eastern end of Saddle Creek Boulevard. Case number 2022-076 RP. This is an aerial view of the subject property. These are already platted lots, and the applicant is requesting an open space along the backside of these lots in order to accommodate an easement that will be owned and maintained by the HOA. This subject property is zoned planned development, and even with the addition of that open space, these lots meet the requirements for this PD. Staff is recommending approval of the replat, and I'm present for any questions you may have.
Thank you, Diane. Any questions of staff? All right. Would anyone like to speak on this request? All right, not quite as much of a hot topic on this one. All right. I'll close the public hearing portion of this item. Any further discussion or questions for staff? All right, then I would entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the proposed replat.
Second.
I have a motion and a second by either Mr. Redwine or Ms. Karen. Both? Okay, we'll give it to Ms. Karen. All right, so I have a motion, a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Motion is approved. All right. And that ends our public hearings. Any staff updates?
I've got a few, if I can keep you for a little bit longer.
All right.
Just to let you know, one of the main things I wanted to tell you was last night at the council meeting, 715 West Sears, the PD for that property was approved with some minor conditions pertaining to the HOA. I'm bringing that information to you because we've been working on that project with that applicant for about 6 months now. So, that was one of my main projects for about 6 months now. So I just want to let you know that they successfully went through and approved for the townhome development on that property. The second most important thing is I'd like to introduce y'all to Mary Tate. She is our new Community Development Services Director. That's probably very wrong, and I'm very sorry, but she started with us yesterday, and some of you were able to meet her last Friday at our joint meeting, but she is on board now.
Welcome.
Welcome.
All right, anything else?
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. There are none opposed.